when the online world came in, we sort of were playing a lot of catch up. We were still really tied to Katie methods, focus groups, face-to-face, and we were catching up and we're now there. I fear that we're going to start playing a little bit of catch up with some of these methods, whether it's mobile, whether it's neuromarketing, and I think we need to be a little bit more aggressive and be ahead of the curve than following and saying, oh, now we're going to be covering neuroscience. Now we're going to be able to utilize this. So it's hard. It's getting out of our comfort zone, but for us to grow as an industry, we need to sort of make that leap of faith in terms of that.
And I think that one thing that really stands out for me is during that transition period from Katie to web, all we did effectively as an industry is we took a Katie questionnaire and shoved it onto a website. Now, we can't do that with mobile, guys. We cannot do that. We need to think really, really differently. It has nothing to do with, at least in my mind, that who's going to take a 20-minute long survey on their phone. Well, yeah, I think those people are nuts. But it has to do with the capabilities of the device itself.
Frankly, it shouldn't really be happening online either.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Homes are stemming from.
Absolutely.
Everybody's pointing their fingers at the panels, and
right.
it's
It's
like
not. It's
the design.
Right.
Design is a huge problem, and so
right.
It's not worked in the online space, and we're suffering for it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And to make that same mistake. I mean, I was on an online user group on LinkedIn. It was a new innovation and market research group or something, and there was a woman on there that posted, who will remain nameless, who was saying, oh, my company does really long, complex surveys on mobile device, and I literally, the top of my head almost split off. I mean, that is the absolute wrong direction to be heading.
Absolutely. Can I share something I experienced at first in my career last week, which is very related to this topic. So I'll share it with you. I was invited in to do a capabilities presentation with my business partner, on MROX, an online qualitative, with a major Fortune 100 company last week. What was new and different was they brought in another vendor to co-present, and we sat in each other's presentations. And the topic of the other, and we were told we had to accept those terms if we wanted to present. And the other vendor's topic was neuroscience, neuromarketing, and behavioral sciences, and eye tracking also. So the other side of some of these things that are up here, and it was really interesting the fact that we were coming at it from two different angles of new emerging technologies in our field, in the same room with the same team of about 7 different clients. There were some really interesting discussions that happened as a result of blending us together in the same conference room. And then, this was a bonus, after the 3.5 hours together meeting, they actually hosted a happy hour for both vendors and the client team. We went off site and had 2.5 hours of socializing time to talk a lot about this as well. Never had anything like that put in front of me before. It was a very interesting, collaborative experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
And isn't that part of, isn't that evocative of how clients maybe are starting to look at things? It's not around competition. It's not about my technique is better than your technique. We need all of these data channels coming in. They want to embrace all of this and bring it to place, and they understand that there's lots of different ways to get there. It's about the consumer insight. That's the bottom line.
And this has implications for everybody in this room. They were very open and looking for shared partnerships amongst those of you that are here, sharing their samples, sharing of insights, really working collaboratively across multi-vendors.
I mean, from the client side, they don't care about the methodology. Yes, they care a little bit about the methodology, making sure that we're doing it right, and it's quality, but they don't care. They want the insight. They want the understanding of the consumer, and they will take any which way it comes to them, whether it is a mixed mode approach. And you're starting to see, from my experience, a lot of companies are embracing mixed mode, that they're not just sitting there and saying, okay, this is the problem, and it is an online survey only thing. They'll take a little bit of the online survey, then they'll follow up with a focus group, or they may even start with the MROC and do that evolution to get that cohesive viewpoint. And they're getting it where I think from sort of maybe the supplier side and just from sort of an MR industry vantage point, we're sort of looking at it as oh, it's just this methodology, we don't look at this other stuff. I mean, I don't think we're that sort of cut and dry, but there is that tension, I think, I see within our industry where on the client side, there isn't that.
Right. The most profound event at IIR, in my opinion, was when Joe Lewis from P&G said, we don't care about representativity, and the survey will be dead by 2020. And Joe Tripoli from Coke said, we don't care about impressions, it's about expressions. Now, that's obviously, there were a lot more comments went there, but here we have two of the largest companies in the world, with major spend within the research space, that effectively are saying that the way that the value that we have always delivered in the past isn't really relevant to them anymore. They want a different type of data. They weren't saying they want data. They weren't saying they didn't care about research. They just said they wanted to have different types of information. And I think that's, obviously, I think that's where your client was getting at too, and what Rox is talking about. So that's a real challenge for us as an industry. It's not about the methodology. It's about the understanding of the consumer and the relationship with the consumer. That's what I hear. And how do we deliver that most effectively? So we look at this laundry list of methodologies. I think that we have to think about it, all of that from that standpoint. It's not about what's cool, sexy. It's about what gives us that view, that connection to the consumer, and we can then leverage that to connect them with our clients. Now, the idea that there's always been this firewall between research and marketing. I think that wall may have to come down. What do you guys think? Or at least be a little more porous.
Well, it's definitely becoming more porous. I definitely spend more time talking to people in marketing now than I ever have in my entire career. So particularly with the advent of a lot of the DIY tool sets, there's less emphasis on all research coming out of our research department, and definitely more emphasis on being more fluidity between marketing and research.
Definitely agree. I have probably a 50-50 split between market research clients and marketing clients, and I think that's continuing to trend. I mean, all departments within the marketing organization now have access to data. It's not just the market, insights sub-department within the organization. You have the customer experience department, you have database marketers, you have marketing as its own group. They're all accessing data, doing their own studies, and so we need to get to the point where, because when you have sort of that traditional model and then we're going to the transitional and the data silos, we're still at that data silo. The research that we've even conducted at Forrester, we found a lot of people are at this phase of what we call the dating phase, which is we're sort of checking each other out. Other departments are doing their own thing. We're not really interacting. We're not getting to what we would call sort of that engagement, where we're sort of interacting with each other. We're not fully engaged or quote-unquote married, but we're working together to get to an end point, which is a mutually agreeable end point. And right now, it's just we need to sort of start talking. We need to start figuring out what is the true business goal for the company and what are the different offshoots that we can do to get to that.
Yeah.
I think it's driving to some of that new technology development. As a firm, we're getting more and more requests for more visually appealing reporting. You have companies like iCharts, who I'm doing this here, that are really focused more on pretty pictures and pretty outputs. And that has definitely influenced, we released interactive dashboarding for reporting this year. And a lot of that's driven by the fact that we do have more marketing clients now, and frankly, they don't want to spend a lot of time digging deep into a data set like we would, so they need something that's more graphically, more of a graphical display and graphically relevant to them. But I think it's gonna drive our industry as a whole to keep up, with what kind of that new vertical needs in terms of outputs or research tools.
We do not have this limitless supply of people to connect to. And they're saying no to that standard survey, and they want the interactive experience. They want, from my viewpoint, I feel like they like that engagement, and they want it to be a two-way street. And gamification in that sort of environment, whether it goes to the point of a Zynga model or even just changing the visual interactive experience, doing sort of, radio buttons now become, even smiley faces, or it's a dartboard and you put things, that sort of engagement, that's what they want, and we can still get interesting data out of that. So I think it just really depends on us sort of breaking the mold, going from, as Kristin said, when we went from Katie to online, we were just sticking Katie survey into an online space, and we're not doing justice to that. If we're getting involved in gamification, we have to break the mold. We have to completely change the way we ask our questions.
I mean, I think gamification is just a natural progression of what we're already seeing in the industry. I mean, interactive questions, interactive surveys, I mean, that's been one of the fastest growing areas of my business in the last year and a half. And as an industry, everyone here, I mean, I totally agree with Roxy's comments earlier about that. We're not being aggressive enough, and we really need to embrace new technologies. But as you're running your business and your own research practice, you kind of have to make a stand and try to figure out, are you interested in being first in market, or are you interested in being best in market? Mm-hmm. And there's a big difference. I mean, I definitely worked in firms throughout my life where I was first to market, and it was really, really exciting, but we also screwed a lot of stuff up, and it was an iterative learning process. Unfortunately, we were really nimble, and we could react quickly to issues or problems or make changes quickly,
I think that gamification in the pure sense is probably a couple years away, but I think there are implications in my field, in qualitative, in how we design and implement qualitative studies. Making it fun is more and more important. It helps us retain, especially as we do more and more asynchronous studies that go on for days, weeks, months. It has got to be fun. There's got to be something in it for the respondents more than just an incentive or an affinity to a topic. And I think that has legs on gamification in choosing activities that are truly enjoyable, moving away from direct questioning and making the activities fun.
And a big part of that is making it social as well. We are running a very short time, and I want to open up the floor to questions. Does anybody have any questions from the panel? Yes, you first. Yes.
Actually, I have kind of a diatribe, but I like the.
Or diatribes as well. Come on, give us your rant.
I'm client side. I'm a director of consumer shopper inside the bill. Everybody's in love with technology when they come and talk to them, and they sell the technology. They've got their MIT PhDs. And in the end, I get a 150-page deck of PowerPoint that is a data dump, and it's unusable.
If you don't have fundamental research skills, you don't have an understanding of what that data output needs to be. I mean, we see it. I see it all the time, and I think that's the challenge. If you're a technology company and you don't have a background in research, hire somebody that knows research, that understands what that data output is going to be. I mean, I work with clients almost every day where we have to take data that they got from somebody and turn it into some sort of usable format and explain to them, sort of what happened on the back end and why what they got out of it was junk. So I think it's, like I said, if you're a technology company, you need to have all the greatest technology in the world, but if what you get on the back end is crap, it doesn't really do a lot of good.
What constitutes a researcher today? Because I'm not sure that it's a data analyst, and I think that's what you're saying as well. It's more of a consultant. It's more somebody who can draw implications, outcomes, think about the strategic aspects of things. That's not what we do very well as an industry. So challenge everybody here to think about how we're hiring people. Maybe it should be a journalist. Maybe it should be a sociologist rather than a traditional data analyst.
So it just is, people are coming from really different backgrounds, and I think having that solid foundation, in research is something that we need to be looking at as an industry that we should be questioning our suppliers on too. If you're a client and you're trying to adopt new technology, who are the people that are selling it to you? What is their background?
In addition, not having research specialists, experts on stuff of many other companies develop new technologies, there is also a challenge of getting out of this old traditional thinking paradigm when you interpret the data. So I would like to think about that as well, because what worked in old tried and true methods might not apply when you use a totally new set of data that we often don't know what it means.
Sure. Kristin, I think that those skill sets of looking at disparate data sets, different data points, and pulling those together is more and more an in-demand type of solution. And I'm a quant guy from way back, so.
No one's writing the 50 to 70 page Word report anymore. Some people have migrated 100% to PowerPoint, but even there, it's no longer the 40, 50 page PowerPoint deck. It can be 2 or 3 slides, the most visceral, powerful, visual insight slides. That's a newer trend.
Thank you. Guys, can we get a big round of applause?